Alright, so we have Odette versus the General. Odette is also scripted by SC, another very strong AI, written to mimic the playstyle of Odette, the real-life female player. And has a few different strategies than Tribal, but it's also a pretty strong AI. We'll sometimes go for skirmishers, we can also go for archers and other units. The General, meanwhile, is my AI, my strongest AI, and it's an AI that goes for a fast castle strategy. With Britons, we'll likely see it go a crossbow strategy. So if Odette decides to go for skirmishers, the General might be struggling. So we see the General going for a lumber camp. Not in the best spot. It'd be nice if it was over here. General also has main goal over here, which could be vulnerable, though it's a bit further away than like the forest bushes are, for example. And the General does have a gold in the back here, as well as the back stone. Meanwhile, Odette has kind of in a bit of a bowl here. That kind of shows how the newer Arabia has kind of gone back to the original style with more elevation. Main gold is kind of up, kind of forward, and a gold off in a similar direction. And then the lumber camp there on this forest to the side. Forest bushes are in the back though. And it looks like Odette didn't really have a good boar lure for the first boar, but it's bringing in the second boar, so it should be better. And also missing some sheep here. Hopefully the fact that this pig is found, I think has found the other pigs. Actually, no, it didn't find those two pigs. So that's unfortunate for Odette. The General building the mill. Alright, add in a mill, and this is a deer Arabia, so Odette is pushing in the deer. And it looks like the General's trying to as well. Alright, so the deer is moving around the forest properly. Tribal still hasn't found these pigs. Add in some farms. I think Tribal went for Loom, or Odette, sorry. Sometimes I do kind of confuse SCZIs together. They have a similar play style. So the General did not go for Loom, so is ahead by one villager. But if Odette is aggressive enough, doing the delayed Loom could be dangerous. We'll have to see how Odette plays out. Going up to feudal age now, add in the barracks, add in a second lumber camp. And the General's adding the mining camp on the main gold. Also got a lumber camp that's kind of behind the forest here. So that's a bit unfortunate. It'd be better if it was like right here, for example. Got a whole bunch of messages from Odette. probably some condition for something, but I'm not sure exactly what might have changed from detecting all of those trees. So I think for now I'm hoping that just waiting to see if Odette goes for skirmishers and ranged units. And if Odette tries to go for skirmishers automatically, because the general's Britons, that's going to give the general a really hard time. We got the double range approach, so we'll have to see what Odette goes for. So the general is building a barracks. And overall things seem to be going pretty smoothly for the general besides the lumber camp placement. Not too much has been disrupted on the economy. But it probably benefited if the general went up a villager or two earlier. I think at this point its fast castle strategy is pretty passive. He used to feel a bit more aggressive a few years ago, but his strategies have definitely changed, and flesh and AIs are stronger than they ever have been. So Odette has found the general, causing some damage against that scout, but those villagers have been idled a little bit. AIs do have a really fast reaction time with villagers. Alright, so the general's adding a range of blacksmith. And Odette is going skirmishers, so this could be pretty bad for the general. Also got a spearman, which probably won't end up being necessary, but it is causing some damage on the scout. But this is... the general doesn't really attack with the exploring scouts at this point. I kind of wonder if the general might find these pigs first. Fletching for Odette. One nice thing about this scout is that it is delaying the skirmisher attack. If the general can get to crossbows before Odette starts attacking, that could be really good. The general is going to Castle Age, and unfortunately for the general, he also menaced Odette's pigs. Alright, is this forge? This would be barely finished before Odette starts attacking. Alright, so Odette hasn't found any targets yet. Maybe found a villager here to target. This archer range might get attacked here. Yes, it is. And the general's ungarrison is archers, which is a bad choice. The general is 30 seconds away from Castle Age. And I'm hoping that'll force the crossbow research before training any archers, but we'll see. I think the general automatically will ungarrison when it gets to 3 archers. So yeah, unfortunately it triggered the ungarrison. But we do have crossbow coming. But even so, against this number of skirmishers, I don't know why they're getting ungarrisoned here. It must have considered the town not under attack, which obviously it is. Got a stone mining camp here. Yeah, against this many skirmishers, the individual crossbows are not going to do much at all against these skirmishers from Odette. And the general doesn't use his ranged unit micro when on defense yet. So I would have much rather the general had like random into picking Franks. But that didn't work out here. Because the French knights would do a lot better against those skirmishers. And it's probably a better civ for the general in general. But I kind of wanted to see the new ranged unit micro in action. So the general continuing to lose units. 18-2 KD for Odette. And Odette also higher on villagers. This is a strange TC location. I think I've seen this in previous games. The general must have a lumber camp distance that's too large. Market being built. I'm not sure exactly why Odette decided to give the general some breathing room, but they'll come back with the elite skirmisher, and the general won't be able to do much about that. Aha, looks like the general's actually triggered an attack here. With Odette's army, it's probably not going to be very effective, but at least we can see some DUC range micro in action. I'm pretty sure Odette's will be stronger here, but let's see what happens. Now, I think the general might have canceled the attack. That's why the range macro stopped. Which is pretty understandable. With these number of soldiers in your base, you kind of have to focus on defense first. For the moment, the general's ahead on villagers. Now it's even. I'm pretty sure it's going to start falling behind on villagers again. The general is switching into adding skirmishers here, but it's always going to keep on mixing in crossbows because it's hard-coded to train some of its main unit and stay with its main unit until Imperial Age. I think I mostly did that to try to avoid excessive strategy switches, which require new technologies and military buildings and so on. Usually it's not a wise investment. But something like just going straight into skirmishers would probably be a better option than continuing to mix in crossbows and skirmishers together. So the general's building in a siege workshop. And I'm not sure if the general would have code to try and save up for a mag in all this situation. But that'd be probably the most effective response here. Does still have some gold here in the back. But also missing the wood as well. Yeah, still trying to train crossbows. Yeah, so pretty easy game for Odette. Switch over to the game to see what scores the game might give us. Alright, so now for Arena. So Odette is going for Incas on Arena. while the general will go for Burgundians. So just finalizing some things here. All right, so let's get started. All right, so Odette's got Incas, and the general has Burgundians. I kind of figured that the Arabian match would be pretty one-sided in favor of Odette, but I have more hopes for Arena being able to go the general's way. With Incas, I wonder if we're going to see maybe Eagle Warriors, maybe some bunks. I'm curious to see how Odette will play this out. We could also see the Incas going for crossbows like Tribal did in the previous set. So elephant was brought down for the general. Got a lumber camp being placed. And this is a deer arena, so we might see some ostrich pushing. And Tribal being in the elephant. And Tribal seems to have found all of the goats. And same with the general. So both should have pretty good starts here. And lumber camp placed by Odette. Pretty decent spot, I'd say. Second elephant being brought in. So a little bit of like TC firing on the elephant. I don't know if that was intentionally or if it just happened by accident. But there aren't a lot of AIs that will shoot the elephant with the TC. All right, the general bringing in the second elephant. And seemed to be pretty smooth there. And looks like the general might be pushing in some ostrich. Okay, so the ostrich does decide to move, but in the wrong direction. Now, I better not go back to that. Okay, so it didn't go back to that gold tile. So I think the general, as we've seen in previous sets, will play kind of a booming strategy with monks and scouts. So probably the one that's most defensive. The gold and stone are both forward, which is unfortunate for the general. Got a second lumber camp here, which is a pretty good spot. The mill is back, but that probably won't matter too much for Arena. And the second lumber camp for Odette is probably not in the best spot, but it's hard to control lumber camp spots for AIs. The main gold is also forward for Odette, but the stone is safe. And also the second gold for Odette is forward, so there's no protected gold, while the general does have this gold in the back. And Odette has found the general. And the general is kind of frustrating. The general's trying to push a fox. Which, because the general doesn't open a gate, is probably going to idle the scout for a while. I guess I could have fixed this after round 4, but didn't really have time. Wasn't a big enough thing to try and fix. So both AIs start Feudal Age research basically identically at the same time. Neither AI went for Loom. General's adding a barracks. Odette's adding a mining camp. No barracks yet. It's not needed quite yet. I forget if it's like 40%, 60%. Feudal Age research is kind of like what it has to get started if you want to be able to build a range or stable immediately. Which, if you're going for just like a passive boom, you don't really need the barracks in Dark Age. I kind of left it in since I want the general to be able to train scouts while it's going up to Castle Age and start guarding the relics. Yeah, I think these foxes are supposed to be considered a pushable animal, but maybe they are actually unpushable like chickens. Interesting, Odette thought that the enemy was open, but that just kind of shows that the path distance is not always accurate because of the gates. Or maybe Odette detected that the gate was open and the path distance was correct for just a couple seconds. Alright, so the general is researching Castle Age first, and now Odette follows. But Odette did do one more villager, so it's not necessarily an idle eco. The general actually has more idle eco. Alright, Castle Age is here for the general. Scout is released. Oh, we have a TC outside of the base for the general, as well as mining camps outside the base. I don't really want that, but oh well. And this seems to be a bug. I don't know why the light cav are on no attack stance there. And the TC was disrupted. The general will add in a few more villagers, and the original scout is still trying to push into Fox. Interesting. I don't know why the general is garrisoning monks inside the monastery. I'll have to take a look at that later. At least they ungarrison now. So we got Odette attacking the wall. I think that's with the starting scout. Odette adding a second TC, or a third TC rather. And the general is now adding a third TC. And this is the starting scout, which is supposed to be exploring. If Odette could just kill this scout, that would work out a lot better for the general, because the general's not going to be able to find any more relics. Otherwise, I don't think I have code to add a second scout. So yeah, I probably should have fixed the fox pushing bug. So I don't know what causes that. I turned it off once feudal age research is completed. Or rather, I turned off deer pushing. So I guess we'll just have to hope that the boom works out for the general. It's currently actually behind on villagers and also resources gathered. Wheelbarrows coming in though. Come on, Eagle Scout, attack the light cav. Okay. Yes, do it, do it, do it. Put this scout out of his misery. Alright, now. Now hopefully the general will add in a new scout to actually scout around. So we got one scout there. Yes, okay, so we got a second one exploring properly. Alright, the general adding a fourth TC. Adding a second stable. Odette adding loom. Something I added for the general, I'm not sure if any other AI does this, is that I prevented villagers from being queued until it gets up to 85% at the TC. I guess it's bad time to show it off because the general couldn't. It had too little food to train a villager. That's probably something I should look at. Looks like the general doesn't have enough food income to maintain the 3 villagers. But yeah, it doesn't queue until there's 85% completed. The idea there is to allow that food to be used for something else, but I guess it actually might be backfiring in this game. Because maybe it could get to 100% finished training the villager and doesn't have the food to train them. Alright, so the Lycat strategy is finally working out. Lycav killed a monk here. And unfortunately, I think this is the exploring scout. So, let's see, the general still hasn't found the other 3 relics on the map. Come on, villagers, go out the gate. Now let this scout back in and back out. No. Okay. And Odette's an Imperial Age. So it looks like it's a fast Imperial into Elite Eagle Warriors kind of strategy. But it's mostly a boom. Kind of boom into Elite Eagle Warriors. The general is building a castle. Should be going up to Imperial just, okay, right now. And Odette still has the superior economy in terms of resources gathered. So despite the general having the better civ, Odette is managing the economy better. And so there's probably something I could look at to like see, okay, are there any economy efficiencies for the general when it's gathering resources? Like these lumber camps are kind of far away from the forest. They could probably be redone. And also these farms by this TC are not efficient at all. Yeah, not building any farms around this TC at all. This also feels pretty late for a hand cart for the general. So that's also probably a reason why its economy is not doing so well. Alright, the general's adding the second castle, which both are in a decent spot if it was just like one castle, but I think it's probably best if they're a bit further spaced out so they can guard more area. Alright, Odette's leading the walls and has started the attack. The general doesn't really have much defense at this point, so we'll just have to hope that these castles can do the job. But do these Eagle Warriors have the unique tech? No unique tech, yes, they don't have the extra pierce armor. But they do have the +2. But it looks like the castle builders were killed off, so just like one castle trying to fend off all these Eagle Warriors. I think this attack should go Odette's way. Alright, some villagers came in and have resumed building the castle. This ram is being ignored. Alright, come on, Kusier, attack the ram. But Odette's units, as you've probably seen, have decided to retreat. And they finally respond to the ram. So the general survived the attack. A good KD. So pretty soon I think we'll get into like an all-out Imperial Age war. So Odette still has the superior military numbers. I think what we need to see is some trebuchets. So we got one coming from Odette right now. From this, yeah, so there's the trebuchet. If that can start taking out castles, then that'll be the big deal. But Odette's already retreating. The general's able to mass up a pretty good cavalry army here. So the general's playing pretty passive here, keeping his units pretty close to the castle. And overall, in terms of KD, seems to be working pretty well. But Odette makes it in cameots. They're not elite yet. I don't think the general has elite Kusier yet. No Paladin either. It could reasonably go for Paladin with the reduced cost. I'm also noticing the general is not repairing this castle. So while we're watching this game, both AIs started out with 20 points. Odette is at 24 now. They would need to win this match in order to tie it with Naga to have a chance to win the tournament. The General is out of contention, so it's just fighting for respectability points at this stage. It looks like we got a block on the gate. Some siege units are blocking their ability for the units to leave. This gate is open, but I guess the trebuchets aren't being considered as a block. Okay, so the General is now attacking, and that allows the rest of the units to get out. I'm not sure why this trebuchet is so close to the castles, or why it's targeting that barracks instead. But okay, so it's now targeting the castle. I wish these Inca castles were a bit bigger, graphics-wise. So we have some hand cannons being added against the Incas here. Odette's still on Castle Age Kemiux, same with the General, still on Castle Age Custier. One castle down, two castles down. So it's looking like the General might take this. It always feels kind of cheap to me, especially in older eras of AI scripting. It always seemed like whichever AI was more defensive would end up winning matches because of having a good KD and units not being very smart when they attacked. And that kind of strategy seems to be winning out here, even though Odette's a lot smarter in how she attacks. Just the fact that the General had a few castles in defense and kept the units nearby seems to be working out this game. Late QCA coming in. And it looks like the main TC is being threatened here. But not by the trebuchets for some reason. That TC is taken out. So I'm going to end the game here. GG. And actually, Odette was quicker. That message is funny. Odette should have been better at calling AIs to play with her for this 1v1. Instead, she was left all alone. So Odette actually had the better economy for most of this game. But the General was able to hold on. So Odette got 2 relics, the General got 3, despite the bad scouting.